So Ohio State closed out its spring practice schedule with a spring game. Lincoln Kienholz going through his second spring as an Ohio State quarterback, and he's now entrenched into a battle. And during the spring game, 12 of 18 for 158 yards and 2 touchdowns. A lot of that came in the second half, though. We're going to grade him just like we graded Julian Sang. Go check out that video. Andrew, I'll let you go first here. What's your grade for Lincoln Kienholz?
I was at a B for Lincoln. I thought when we grade Julian, I thought one of the big reasons I gave him an A was because there wasn't really a drop-off. There were some throws that Lincoln made where you kind of went, okay, that was not a great throw. There was that throw on this sideline to Jeremiah where, you had a corner underneath and a safety coming over the top. And look, that is an incredibly difficult throw. But I said, right as the ball was kind of going over Jeremiah, I said, oh, he's throwing it away. Right as Steven said, that's just a bad throw. And when you start to have those questions, you start to go, I don't know. There were some other throws that he made where, he sailed Jeremiah on the first play, on the first series. Like, there were just some moments where you kind of looked at and went, you would love more consistency from Lincoln. But I thought there were also some pretty solid moments. There was a throw like right around the 40-yard line where he just layered it in over the linebackers. There was a safety coming over the middle. I forget who the receiver was, but the receiver, he caught it and he had to stop and catch it, but he was able to turn and run and pivot back the other way, the way which he was coming, and get some more yards there. Like, there were throws there where it's like, you know what, that's a really savvy throw, because if he leads him there, he's going to get his receiver killed. And there were just moments where you looked at and went, you know what, that's just a really good throw by Lincoln Kienholz. So I think today we saw a lot of really good flashes from Lincoln. We also saw some moments that you need to work on, and there was just not that gap, I think, with Julian. So that is where I'm at. I think you have to feel promised about where you were with Lincoln Kienholz and where you are with Lincoln Kienholz, because, look, we're going into an era of college football where Ohio State, the expectation for them is to play 16 games a year, and you might have to play your backup quarterback. You might have to start your backup quarterback at some point, not just for poor players, something like that. And I think Ohio State has to feel pretty good about where they're at with Lincoln Kienholz. And I think today you saw why. Because, yeah, the consistency needs improved on. That's why I'm only at a B with him. But I thought there were some really good moments with Lincoln, too. And I think you feel pretty encouraged where you're at.
So we got a B for Lincoln. Stefan, is that your grade?
Yeah, I got the same grade. And for a lot of the same reasons, you're kind of almost grading him on a curve, because at this point, we're all pretty confident that Julian Saint's going to be this team's backup or starting quarterback. Is Lincoln doing enough to where you're confident as the backup quarterback? Can he, you've seen situations in the past where there'd be a quarterback competition that goes into the regular season, or just, what was it? C.J. Stroud got hurt, early in a year and missed a game, and someone had to come in and start in a non-matchup game. And then we saw last year with Devin Brown, where Will Howard goes down late in the first half against Michigan State, and he comes in and finishes off a touchdown drive, a pretty important drive in that Michigan State game. Like, we saw Devin Brown have to come in against Michigan last year. Like, can Lincoln Kienholz be good enough in those situations to be your backup quarterback, to come in? Yes. And I think a big reason why I liked what he did is he wasn't great. Like, it wasn't spectacular, but it also, like, there weren't drastic mistakes. Tavian St. Clair, a few of those were probably more so just freshman mistakes than anything, but you didn't see turnovers or just, dangerous throws or anything like that from Lincoln Kienholz. You feel pretty comfortable that, okay, starting quarterback just had to step out. We need this guy to come in for a couple plays. He's not going to lose this game for us. He's going to do what he needs to do and put us in a position to win. I think Lincoln Kienholz could do that. So, not spectacular, not blowing you off the charts, but like, you're looking at it saying that's exactly what you need Lincoln Kienholz to be for you. Just be good enough, be a game manager when needed, and then maybe every now and then we'll see some big plays if the opportunity presents itself.
I'm going to break the rules again. I did it in the Julian Saint video. I have to do it here too. It's just consistency. It's key to life. I think the problem is the best thing about Lincoln, he needs to be live to show it, which is part of the reason when we were in there for that Student Appreciation Day practice last Saturday. It's why he looked the best, because he's the most athletic quarterback in the room, and he has been for the last couple of years here. I'm going to give him an A. I'm grading both of these quarterbacks on curves for what they needed to do this spring. Julian's job was to validate what we thought, and I think he did that. Lincoln's job was to make that tough, and I think he did that. We saw 3 practices. 2 of the 3, Lincoln was better. Now, what does that mean? How much do you weight that versus on the most important stage when there were 20,000 people here and you're in Ohio Stadium? How much do you weight that versus everything else? Fine, that's all a part of the math there. But it's about the room. It's not just about who the starter is going to be, which is why you guys are talking like this Brian Dayfield comfortable about who his second guy is if something happens to Julian. Well, that starts with pushing Julian and making sure he had to earn the job. creating the conversation where it's at least being had of, hey, can Lincoln realistically win this job? When Ryan Day is going, yeah, this is neck and neck. He has a realistic shot at winning this job. Do we think he's going to win it? No. But if the best case scenario of the spring was Julian's got to earn it and Lincoln Kienholz has made this interesting, then I think Lincoln Kienholz accomplished his mission, which is why I'm giving him an A for what that mission was. Now, could he continue to make this interesting? Is this going to be like 2023, where the first couple of games here, they're still trying to figure out who the starter is? Probably not, because you're playing Texas and not Indiana, but maybe he can push this and make it a little bit more interesting and flip this thing on his head. But I do think in year 3, Lincoln Kienholz needed to be ready to do this, and I think he was ready to do this regardless. We're going to continue this conversation on Buckeye Talk, so go listen to that wherever you find podcasts, and get the text 614-350-3315. It's a 2-week free trial, $3.99 after that. You won't regret it. It's a fun time. I'm Steven, that's Stefan, that's Andrew. See you later.